Welcome to Impact by Choice podcast, part of Born from Love project with your hosts, Andrada Anite and Rahila Khan. Welcome, Rahila. How are you
Thank you,
today?
Andrada. I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. I would like, Rahila, for you to introduce our beautiful guest today. Hi.
Thank you, Andrada. Thank you for that. Today we're going to introduce to our viewership our island girl from Bahamas, from all the way, I should say, from Nigeria to the Bahamas to Atlanta, and she's no other than the most beautiful Monique Russel. And she is an expert in communications, a virtual speaker, and a trainer. She's so involved in communication with people in the home, with people in the workplace, and also very much providing services in leadership development, executive coaching, and public speaking. A very warm welcome to you, Monique.
Thank
Welcome.
you so much, Rahila and Andrada, for having me today. I'm excited for us to talk and chat about
Yes,
things that we love.
I
Yeah,
know.
pleasure.
Yes, and from our last conversation that we had, you were so inspiring, you kind of ignited something in me. And then Anurad and I decided, no, we got to get you on, with us. Because we have so much in common, as you know, with looking at our YouTube channel, Born from Love. And Anurad would second me on what I'm saying, is that in shifting consciousness, I was truly taken aback in the transformational work that you are doing, the inner transformational work, across the board. So I'm very interested, in you sharing with our viewers out there about communication and how it is so important, especially now where we are with interpersonal and intrapersonal skills and how you prepare, your clients to do public speaking or to just communicate as a mom in a home. How do you go about that?
Wow, I'm so excited to talk about it. It's something that I'm really passionate about. And I think right now, where we are in our world is really a transformative time.
Yes.
There's so much shifting going on. It's painful, but change is always painful, right? Change is painful, and we have to go through this sort of transformation or metamorphosis process, like the butterfly, the
I
caterpillar
love
in the
that.
cocoon, yeah, and then we come out and into this beautiful butterfly. But what I love doing is helping people to go from the inside out. So the communication that we can connect with other people around our in our lives, with our family members, with our clients, the way we show up, even in the digital space, a lot of that starts from the inside.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that I am extremely passionate about, because I am a mother, I am a wife, and I believe that once we are able to go into ourselves and really take a look at all the things that have happened in the past, and I've done this for myself and I continue to do this for myself, then we can have a better sense of what we have experienced. We can give it new meaning. We can choose to show up differently. I tell people all the time, I am not my country, I'm not my heritage, I'm not my parents, but they're part of me. They are a part of me. So I think when we embrace fully who we are, because sometimes I run into people that feel like, they have to set a straight line and a demarcation of, I'm not that, I'm
Mm.
not that, I'm not, that's not a part of me, but really it is, because you've been conditioned that way. That's part of your life journey, your life process. Why not? Let's just look at it, look on the table and see, why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you think the way you think? Why do you feel that maybe if you grew up in a patriarchal home, that the man must have all the say and you must have none? Why do you feel
Yes.
that way? Why do you feel that you have to be a dictator to your kids? I grew up with a lot of
Yes.
sayings: children are to be seen, not heard, don't disobey, don't talk back. But is compliance really what we're after, right? If is it
Might
really?
I butt in a bit, Monique, because you're talking about something which is so appropriate right now in terms of racism and what's happening in America. May I indulge with you and ask you your take in terms of how do you communicate this whole topic of racism?
Yeah.
How would you go about doing that?
Well, what I have done and what I am doing is encouraging people to embrace learning about their past, learning about their ancestors' past, learning about their history, learning about others' history. Because right now there's a lot of low energy, low level frequency of emotions, blame and denial, and a huge amount of non-personal responsibility. Like those are the three cousins that are hanging out right now. And so I encourage people and I say, explore your ancestors, explore your history, explore the history of others. Don't just stay in mainstream news or mainstream media, because sometimes that information isn't complete. So using critical thinking skills to look at alternative information, other authors, read, sift through, have conversations, come from a place of healthy dialogue, and be okay to take that step forward with being uncomfortable. So this is what I am suggesting, when I get in my conversations or groups and people run straight to how. We need to find better solutions. We can't be doing it this way. This is not constructive. This is not progressive. We should do 1, 2, and 3. And it's easy for us to run straight to how, right? Okay, there's a problem. We know the problem. Let's jump into the solution. But we
Yes.
don't sit in the why. Why
Yes.
is this happening? Why are we feeling this way? Where did this come from? So that's
So,
how
Monique,
I
yes,
approach the conversation about racism.
yes, that's well said. Well said. Sorry that I'm so excited to talk to you, and I just want
Please
to
do.
use this time so constructively that when we look at interpersonal, that is what you're making reference to as interpersonal skills. When we're looking at everything in a holistic way, and then the intrapersonal is going inwardly and
Yes,
doing the inner reflection,
that's right.
introspection. Am I
And
right?
that's right. That's right.
So
You have to go
yeah,
inside.
you answered my question so beautifully, and I just wanted to sum that up in how well you answered it in looking at the topic of racism, in talk about the interpersonal skills and intrapersonal skills, because it can get very confused and diluted, but they're two separate, concepts in a way, in understanding oneself and in understanding others, in how we relate to others and how we relate to ourselves. And that is to do with emotional intelligence. And I know you're big on that as well. Andrada, I know you have some good questions as well. I'd just like to hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rahila. First off, Monique, would you like to add anything else in regards to Rahila's question about racism and communication and interpersonal skills before we move on to something else?
Just that, it has to start with us on an individual level.
Right.
So everyone has a part to play. Everything is interconnected. A lot of people really don't see how interconnected we are because we've been focused on this tunnel vision and
Yes.
busy life and external trappings. So I know that that would be difficult. So I won't even say, remember that it is. I will just say, start with you. Start with what you can do. So racism exists. Racism is real. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with people that are around you that may not understand why. Because the truth is, even in our personal life, there's so many things that we don't know about how we are interacting with others. When I was growing up in the Bahamas, my mom, she was a school teacher. She never sat me down and said, you need to listen to positive messages. You need to just, be focused and be positive. But as she was sitting there, putting the radio on and listening to the tape recorder, those little seeds were being deposited in me. And I didn't know it then. I didn't know it then. It was only as an adult when I reflected, when I went into retrospection, when I went into coaching, when I went into therapy, I realized, wow, those seeds were being planted, and I was observing and absorbing what she
Yeah.
was doing. So more is caught than taught. I think we have to acknowledge that as we're able to pick up positive traits, we're also able to pick up negative traits that lie way below our conscious level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
What do you
Unfortunately,
think?
yes, it is. It is so. And speaking about taking on also the negative and the positive traits from your parents and society, I would like to ask you in regards to communication, but I would like to go on the line of communication with self, because that has to do a lot with emotional intelligence, if I'm not mistaken, but also with how we conduct ourselves first in order to conduct ourselves with the others, right? To interact with the environment. So during these times, there are many countries which are still in lockdown, plus all these events happening in the US and so on. So I would like to ask you, how do you see communication, like communication to self first and then communication with the others, moving forward, um yeah, during these times?
Yeah. So first, in this time, I feel like we have to choose the story that we're going to say about what's happening. So
Yes.
if we say, "Oh my God, this is just horrible. Everything's just going to get worse. No progress is being made." We are already putting that energy out.
Yeah.
If we choose to just consume all the negative images, we are re traumatizing ourselves. And that's not a healthy place to be. So I'll speak for myself personally. Um, I have to step back. I have to recharge. Resilience is not about just pushing through, go, 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 nonstop.
Yeah.
It's about taking a step back. It's about thinking about how can I recharge? How can I refuel? Because yes, I have been angry. I've been angry. Yes, I've been angry. I've been sad. I've been frustrated. I've been disappointed. But I don't want to create from that place. I do want to connect and acknowledge with others who are also feeling those emotions. And so it's my responsibility to go and process that, to share with others, to think about how can I imagine a future where this doesn't hinder us from connecting with each other. I have conversations where people say, "Oh my God, I just think this thing has completely eliminated the way we're going to communicate with each other." Well, I think the human connection and desire for connection is so strong that it's going to continue to connect us or push us together. I mean, let's look at, we're in the United States here. You guys are not in the United States, but we're talking about something that's happening here and it's being felt in other parts of the world. This
Yeah.
just goes to show how connected we are. So I would say start with yourself. I say lead yourself. I'm actually gonna put a t-shirt, blame is not attractive. Lead yourself to heal yourself. And
I
in
love that.
doing that, you now show up differently with others. So we can always tell based on behaviors, based on how responses are happening, what lens someone is seeing the world through. We can see it in our words, in our behaviors. I used to be a perfectionist, you know.
Me
So
too.
listen, I mean, I would go to places, it didn't matter what was going on. I would just be like, "Oh, that word was spelled incorrectly. Oh, they can't, no, they can't do that." And I would be so excited to go and point out what was wrong. And that's not a healthy place to be. Sometimes you can be so much in this perfectionist role or mindset that you are being blocked from receiving the true information that's there for you, the good meat that's there for you. But going through my own journey and my own process, I got to a point where I was like, That's not where I want to be. And so in relaxing those judgments, in rewriting the story, it's okay, mistakes happen. That was a reflection of me being hard on myself. I felt like everything had to be right, it had to be perfect, I had to triple, quadruple check something. If I saw a mistake, I'm like, oh my God, I put that thing out there, let me go and try to fix it.
Me
And
too.
so so that is a reflection of what's going on in our inner world. When we're so hard on ourselves, it's easy for us to be hard on someone else. It's very easy for us to pick out flaws and have our lens look for flaws. But when we have a love and self-compassion, and we know that we are perfectly imperfect and we make mistakes, when someone makes a mistake, you can say that's just a mistake. You don't have to worry about what is it going to look like if I have a misspelled word. Yeah, just life goes on. The message is there. The meaning is there. You create from a great space and you release it.
That's beautiful self-leadership, Monique. I absolutely love what you are sharing right now. Might I add, in leading self, especially now with what's going on in America, but this is a global phenomena, like you said. I'm in South Africa, and I have so much compassion and empathy for the people of America right now because we lived this for decades in our country. And it's so sad that in the 21st century that it all had to boil over in America. It's so interesting in what you're saying is when we don't pay attention to ourselves or self as it were, in how we feeling, what we are thinking without great awareness, we just follow the herd instinct,
Mm.
without qualification as it were, or quantifying certain things, without qualifying certain things, and we just follow the herd. And this is where I think we get it wrong, where there's so much more destruction rather than building and coming together and reinforcing positivity. So, might I add in what you just shared with us that awareness is the key when it comes to self as a leader?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Awareness is everything because with awareness, we now have choices. We have choices to either do something or ignore it. And that's a choice. Doing nothing is a choice too. But I think I shared this quote, and I don't remember who said it, but the mind once stretched, it will never go back to its original state. So the knowledge that we have and the awareness that we have about ourselves, it's not like we can unlearn those muscles. We can't unlearn what we've now been exposed to. Um, like going back to that state, we can we rewrite the story, but once we
Yes,
now are aware, it's like your house is on fire, or there's something burning on your stove, and now you smell this smell. So this is an awareness that you have that something might be burning. So what do? Something might be burning, let me continue to work. Something might be burning, let me go check what's burning. So now I have my awareness, I'm empowered to make a choice to go see or do something
yes.
differently.
Beautiful. Well said. Anuradha, over to you.
I love this example about awareness, putting it that way and stressing it so much on the choice part, because in the end, this podcast is called Impact by Choice. And speaking about choices and speaking about impact, I would like to ask you, Monique, from a communication standpoint. Um, there would be two questions here. One, how would you personally choose to make an impact by choosing communication? And the second one would be, how would you advise your clients to make a choice in making an impact?
Okay, so for me, the question is how will I choose to make an impact with communication, right? Within my work, yeah? So I do this all the time, all the time. I'm already getting excited about it. Because, for example, this conversation right here is an impact. Whoever is going to be listening to this, whoever's going to going to be feeling the energy that we're putting out and connecting with it. This is an impact. This is what I love to do. It was something that I was gifted with from birth. And so in my work, when I show up, I am choosing to speak on topics that may not be the norm, but that will set a stage for where we're heading in the future. I am choosing to do this. I'm choosing to work with moms, women, mompreneurs who are in Africa, who are in the Caribbean. I'm choosing to help them see how powerful the role of the Queen Mother is. And when they actualize in their role as moms, it flows right into their business, into their marriage, into the world, their impact. And as far as my clients, I will advise my clients to make their impact not based on what I want or their parents want or what their, employers want, but to make that impact that connects with the core of who they are. We have to get back to that because the conditioning you have, I was talking with someone yesterday and she's in her mid 50s and she says, I still don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know what I want to do with my life. And age is not an eraser of hurts. Age is not a sign of wisdom. You have to go through that process of awareness. So I encourage my clients to come into that space being open enough to play, to see and discover and rediscover what's already inside of them, to confront those challenging questions, challenging moments. It's a scary place. It's not something that, we're going to Disney World. It's scary sometimes to confront yourself. But I will impact my clients this way and let them know that what comes up through their own experiences, through what they've lived, is connected to their purpose. And that's how they will choose to continue to make their impact in the world.
I still love you for
And
that,
Radha,
Monique.
yeah, may I ask Monique the second part of the impact, right? And that is influence, because I saw those two words on your profile as well, how you impact and influence. And I'd like to say that Dale Carnegie was the person who said how to win and influence people, that we must influence our families first, Monique. And I love what you just shared now in creating an impact with women as you're working with women in the Caribbean. Women have a great influence in the home. I mean, it's both the men and women, but I think more so the women because we carry the child for 9 months. So we're influencing the child from the time of conception. So how would you look at influence?
Oh, yeah. In the home?
In
You're
the
talking
home,
about
in the workplace,
just in
even
general.
social media, because you're involved in all platforms, you're involved in every which way. How would the word influence work for you, if I may to ask you that way?
Yes. So for me, influence is just having a positive imprint, leaving a positive imprint on someone else. In the digital space, I get a lot of people that send me messages and they say, wow, that was really inspiring. That was really thought provoking. Some people take action on the recommendations and they come back and they say, wow, I did what you said and this is the result. And so I think just making imprints is influence. When someone connects with your energy and they connect with your value system, and they are inspired to do something about it. I'm not just talking about hitting a like on social media, but when they're actually inspired to think, or maybe I should call up someone, maybe I should reach out to someone. I had a workshop last week that we were focused on, the art of self-promotion for women, why you need to promote yourself. You are a brand. One of the ladies in that workshop called me over the weekend and she said, I just want you to know that I did that exercise. I condensed it and I did that exercise with my family. Now this is we're talking about business and professional space, yeah?
Yeah.
And she said, I went home and I did that exercise with my family. And it was like so much positivity that came into our conversations at home. I literally like screamed on the phone because, you know, it's like that was not my intention, but for her to take that and modify it for our family and make it a 10-minute activity and to infuse positivity in her own home, that spoke volumes to me. So it was a very
Yes.
influential transformation. And she said the next day everybody was working so hard. And so you see, when you connect with your family as a mom and you take that leadership role and you affirm what's present in a healthy way, oh my God, the relationships can improve so much. And we just get an opportunity to feel that true desire and that true connection. But that's just one piece. And in my own family, I'm influencing every day, whether I choose to or not, how I choose to connect. You know, last night I had a conversation with my youngest son, and his view on this issue is totally different from my view. And I was like, you know what, this just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And he was like, Mom, it's my view. This is what I'm going to do. And so I actually responded not in the best way. So you know what? This
We're
morning,
human.
I had to get up and I said, you know what? I was totally out of line. Like, I was in my feelings. I didn't have to insult you because your view was wrong. That was my mistake. And he said, thank you, Mom. Thank you so much for that. So I don't get it right all the time. I have the tools, but it's my job to take that ownership to say, okay,
Yes.
you know what? You made the mistake. You can correct it. And then that way I'm showing my kids that someone who has a traditional role of influence over you, from the parent standpoint, it doesn't mean that they're exempt from making apologies. It doesn't mean that they're exempt from saying I'm sorry. So
Oh my God.
But that,
If I could just say that I've been waiting for someone to come on the show to say this out loud. Seriously, I swear, Monique. I mean, like, there's so many people, like parents, right? That they believe they took over old beliefs, right? Old conditioning, old belief systems, saying that, yeah, if we're parents, we're always right. We don't have to apologize. So only the child is the one who has to apologize, and only the parents deserve respect. But then you're coming along saying all this about apologizing to your own son, which makes me also share, you know, the fact that, for instance, if I may, Rahila, for instance, last evening, my girls and I had a bit of a fight, right? And again, just like you, I didn't react as I should have, right? I didn't sit them down and say, okay, let's see where the problem is. No, I just reacted like mom, like hurting the ego, I guess, mom. So we had our little fight, but obviously, after a while, not sure if today or yesterday before we went to sleep, I did just the same. So it just blew my mind when you came and said that you apologized to your son. And I know that Rahila also implements this in their home, in their home. But it's like mind blowing to actually have someone coming into the show and saying, I did apologize to my son. So thank you for that, Monique. Thank you.
my
yeah.
pleasure, my
But
pleasure.
might I add to that, saying you
Sure.
both are exemplary in
Oh,
your
thank you.
behavior, in who you are, in being authentic. And you know, that's why I always teach home-based leadership. And this is a great example that both of you are sharing about home-based leadership, because leadership begins in the home of saying, I'm sorry. I didn't listen to your point of view.
Yes,
Sorry, I've been so reactive. I should have known better. And I didn't implement the skills which I'm teaching to others. So I
exactly.
think that's truly amazing. Well done to both of you. You both
Thank
get
you.
stars from me.
Thank you.
You get a star, you get a star, you get a star.
Everybody gets to start.
Everybody gets a star.
And you get a
for
golden
saying
star
I'm
from me,
sorry.
Rahila, because you taught me a lot of stuff. So
Yeah,
we all have gold stars.
Ah,
for
thank you. I
sure.
accept it.
That's wonderful.
That was fabulous, you two, Anuradha and Monique. You're good recipients. You well deserve those stars. So, moving along, we're on such a beautiful topic in looking at the home and looking in the workplace, looking at the way we empower women. Because, Monique, I'm also big on women empowerment as well. In looking at communication, like both of you being moms and also being in business and also being facilitators of others, how would you look at communication, effective communication? What role does that play, Monique, in delegating tasks and looking at personalities of different people, beginning in the home and in the workplace?
Mm. Can I tell you something? So in my work, I do use some personality assessments,
Fantastic.
like DISC, for example, that helps us to see what our dominant communication style is. And there are hundreds of assessments out there, but I always
Yes,
say the assessments are not the end all. They're just like tiny
Tiny bit.
starting points for us to have a conversation to get to that awareness piece.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is about awareness. And when we have the communication skills in one place in our home, we can transfer it to the workplace. But typically it doesn't start like that. Typically people are exposed to the tools in their place of work because they have to get along with others. And then by default, it's like, oh, I can use this over here. Sometimes the connection is made, not often, but sometimes the connection is made. So in terms of understanding personalities and delegating tasks, it is extremely important. Your life will change for the better when you understand how everyone around you communicates. So for example, my husband and I am the visionary in my home, and I see out our projections and our goals. And I tell the story when we were young in our marriage, and we've been together. I said 19 years. He told me, he was like, no, we've been together 20 years. Okay, big mistake. But officially, officially married.
congratulations.
Yes, we've been together for a while. Thank you. But in the beginning, I thought that I could communicate with him, and I expected him to communicate with me the way that I communicate. Like, let's plan, let's vision, let's do this, let's have fun. And a lot of times I would talk with him, and he would sit on the couch and he would just sit and listen. And I would finish saying all I want to say and just waiting for his response. And he'd be quiet and, just kind of shake his head like, okay. And I'm like, okay, what? Like, did you hear me talking? And so when I learned how he communicated, because all my kids, everybody in the house, they're like my lab. Everybody goes through all my exercises, my tests. And so when I learned that he needed more time to process,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, I mean, it just changed my entire way of communicating with him. I no longer had the expectation for him to respond right away. I knew that if I spoke about something maybe a day or two, he would have already processed. We would come back together and talk about this topic, and things would just be fine and dandy. With my kids, my boys are very, very different. One always needed this type of structure. Where are we going? How long are we going to be there? Where are we coming back? The natural Caribbean African mom, don't ask me where we going. We going somewhere. You don't need to know when we go. Why are you asking me where I'm going? Natural, in the past. Until I realized his communication style. What was it hurting me to give my son an answer? Nothing. If it would make him feel more comfortable, it would help us, have a better transition to where we're going. I say, this is where we're going. We're going to, plan to be here for maybe 30 or 40 minutes. This is why. And then he was good, no problem. This same son, my eldest son, if I were to give him a task, I would need to lay out the tasks for him. Like, let's say he was younger and I would say, I need you to clean your room. Go clean your room. when I learned how he processed and how he communicated, it just changed my life completely. I need to say, I need you to clean your room by 12 o'clock. I need you to pick up your clothes off the floor and put them in the hamper, and I need all of this done by 12 o'clock. And then he would have it done. So
Wow.
it's like when I realized how to communicate in the way that he processed best, it just created a different way for us to connect. My youngest one, he is very experiential. He's very hands-on. He needs to reason a lot, so we take a different approach with him. But when they were younger, you just accommodate and you adapt. It's not like you're not being yourself, because when I tell people this, sometimes they're like, I just want to be me. Well, you're still you. You're still you when you adapt your communication style. The goal is for communication. Communication gets difficult when there are unhealthy or unrealistic expectations, which is driven by, I don't know how this person communicates best. I don't know what they really need. I would hear, a lady would tell me, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. Okay, so let's go and break down what that means. What does happy mean? Well, he doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. Okay, so what can he do that would make you feel happy? Oh, I didn't think about that. Well, if you didn't think about that, how will you expect him to think about that? How will he know? Because you can't articulate it. And if you can't articulate it, you can't tell him about it, right? So just understanding everything, how you communicate, the words you need to express yourself, how the folks in your home communicate, how you can connect better with them. The same thing happens with your clients, with your customers, with your coworkers, just being able to see how the different personalities, how they show up and how you can move the conversation to the next step. Otherwise, it will just start from zero and it will never open up. We'll just stay on this surface level of tasks and I need this work done, but we'll never really open up and have true connection to delegate effectively. I can delegate this task to one person because they shine in this area. I can delegate this task to another person instead of me expecting to give someone a task in their area of weakness or not strength, watching them struggle, watching them get frustrated, and then saying that they have poor performance.
Wow, that's impressive. Hey,
Yes.
I love the way you got your child to do certain tasks. And you're right, the same thing spills over in the workplace. And therefore, it is almost like you're going into somebody else's world and looking at the world through their filters, as it were, so that you have a better understanding and then communicate accordingly and to get the job done the best. This is so amazing. Andrada, you may continue.
Yeah, I particularly loved the last bit because it shows it's it's a huge learning uh, slap. I want to call it slap, right? So it's a huge learning slap for leaders, for instance, because especially in the corporate world, m- I call them micromanagers rather than leaders. Most of these bosses, micromanagers, use precisely what you called delegating to the weak point of someone and then expecting them to have results and to somehow punch them in the face if they don't deliver results, right? So it's really interesting that you are using all that from your home with your clients and taking it again on the same road from home to the corporate world, which is absolutely astonishing. I love that. I love that. And I'm coming from after 12 years of corporate experience, so I've seen a few leaders and a lot of micromanagers, and I've seen um, different approaches in delegating and in um, asking people to do things they would suck at, excuse my language please, and not focusing on their strong points. So thank you. for putting that message, that particular message out.
Yeah, my pleasure. I think that you spot on. And so it connects to the emotional intelligence, like what
Mhm.
Rahila was
Yes.
saying, putting yourself in the other person's shoes. But I can't put myself in your shoes if I don't even know how my shoes feel, So
Exactly.
I have to first get to know myself. Then I can put myself in your shoe and have empathy. And then when I see how, oh, your left shoe might be a bit too big, I can actually have compassion and say, maybe you want to put an extra padding on this shoe. Maybe you want to change this shoe.
Mm.
Maybe you want to use a different shoe. So then my empathy now leads me to take a compassionate step to help you with what you're doing while you're in that state. And I just think in terms of the delegation, because we haven't taken the time to learn about ourselves, it's easier to just dish out those tasks, expect people to get them done, and hold them to a different standard. Even that whole delegation process has communication touch points, because it's like, am I asking you to do something that you can't do, or you don't want to do, or you're having
Yes.
trouble doing? And then once we've set that delegation of a task, now have we built in our checkpoint time? You don't just go and say, let me know if you have any problems. So let's
Yeah.
let's let's build in our check-in time, okay? As the leader, let's build that in right now and say, let's check back in a few days. Let's see how you're doing. What challenges did you have, or how can I help, or can you get a peer mentor? So micromanaging comes from fear, right? It comes from the fear. It comes from losing control. We need to have this control, and I can relate to that even in the home, when I felt like, what, I needed to have all of this control. Compliance. They say, oh, you have beautiful children. Yeah, because they just do whatever you say. But who wants kids that just do what you say? No, I want them to be respectful. And I want them to challenge opinions and challenge ideas. And so if we can't create this environment in the home, how can we expect someone in the workplace to speak up, right? To challenge ideas when we're taught that authority figures are not to be challenged.
Exactly. On point. You know, even in the home, I teach this with parents, looking in terms of whether you are an auditory type. Some of us can listen and hear more. Others are the visual types, where like we can map out things and have a bigger picture of something, like the visionary. And then we get those that are the feeling types. They have to feel everything they need to learn and do. And even in the home, parents don't read their children correctly, and they expect the child to conform or to just perform in a certain way. And when that doesn't happen, then they get angry about it. And for as long as we don't address these personality types in delegating tasks, in looking at the strengths and weaknesses, and bringing it together in a holistic model of how we can grow collectively, I think that's very important as well. And you could have put it all together in a more profound way, in the way you just did in this podcast, Monique. It really is amazing in all the different aspects we covered, and you did it so effectively, so
Thank you.
effortlessly.
Thank you.
And I think we can see how important I call it conscious communication, in how we can communicate consciously, in how we speak every letter, every syllable, and who's on the receiving end of that. And so often it's our beloved ones, our children, our partners, our husbands, who's on the receiving end. And this is why, like you said, self awareness is so important in emotional intelligence. And the more we work on that, the more spiritually evolved we become. So we're not as reactive anymore. We change the blueprint. We don't want to go back to how it was eons ago, because we know it didn't work. So, and like you earlier on said, in your sharing, how important it is to change the blueprint. what are the steps do we take to change that? That is important. And there's a very same issue we're talking about, whether it's racism, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's any issue, whether it's global or personal, that we can handle it in this way, starting with self. And
Mm.
that is the gist of this podcast in a way, but we unpacked so many things. It's just amazing because you brought it back to self. Andrada, don't you agree?
I totally agree. So I just wanted to again say thanks to Monique for everything that you expressed, from leadership to knowing self to effective communication to apologizing to your children to effective delegation and so many more points that you brought up. it's just it's just amazing. And as I told you, in our short break that we had, you are absolutely incredible. I think that we can say this publicly, that we barely interacted before, but only by hearing you speak in this podcast, it just gives me that feeling of I just want to love you, because you're just that sort of person, easily lovable, because you're, as you said, you're self-aware, you're putting all the efforts to make all the good impact that you can, and to leave a meaningful legacy, because that's what I get a sense of from you. And both Rahila and myself are really, really fond of the term legacy, and not legacy in terms of material stuff, but more like, the
A
spiritual part of
heartprint.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And rather, I just quickly want to round up by saying, Monique, we connected a year or two ago via LinkedIn, and it was an on and off, hello and whatever, but somehow there was a deeper connection. And somehow this year it showed up more. And I can't tell you how grateful I am to God and the universe for you communicating with me. And it just ignited something in me, and I shared this instantaneously with Anuradha. And I'm so glad that you both connected, that we had this conversation, because it is definitely going to make a huge impact, not only on women and children, but also on males as well. Because I don't believe in separation and empowerment of just the one gender. I believe in uplifting holistically an entire family, which includes a male child and men as well. That the rehabilitation of family is what is needed going forward, into the fourth industrial revolution, that we can build families that in essence will build healthy communities using communication tools. And once again, Monique, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for joining us, for giving us your time, in sharing your wisdom, your expertise, and what you brought forward was knowledge is light. Thank you very much for
Oh,
that.
no, thank you. It's my pleasure. I love talking about these things. So thank you so much. And I echo what you're saying as well, Rahila. I just believe everything is in divine timing.
mhm.
So, we may have connected 2 years ago, but this is where we were supposed to be starting from. And the work that we'll be doing, transforming families all across the world, is definitely what God had already aligned for us. So thank
Oh, that's a
you. Thank
fact.
you
Thank you.
for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's a fact. Monique, I would like, before we leave, I would like to ask you if there are people who would like to reach out to you. How can they reach out to you, and what for?
Yes, so I am online on the internet. My website is Clear Communication Solutions. So you can send a message through there. I'm also on LinkedIn several times a week. So that's a great place to connect with me. I mean, we all connected on LinkedIn. And that's what has been happening for the past 3 years. It's just been so amazing. So LinkedIn is good. I'm Monique Russel on LinkedIn, Clear Communication Coach. So you can just go ahead and send me a message.
I appreciate that, Monique. I guess my elder wants to say hi, or she just
Hi.
shied away. But I'm really grateful for sharing all this knowledge with us today. And to tell us. By the way, I'm not sure if I understood correctly. What are the services that people can connect you with?
Definitely. So we do group coaching, we do virtual keynotes and speaking workshops as well. And we have some courses in the online school for those that want to just do it on their own when wherever they are, whenever. So those are the areas where I support and provide my services. I do a small bit of one-on-one coaching, very, very small bit
Mhm.
each year, but mainly workshops, groups, and the keynote speeches.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for making that very clear for us and the audience. Again, thank you both, Monique and Rahila, for being with us today on Impact by Choice. And we'll hear each other very soon. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you. You do
Thank
the
you.
same. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.